The car wash you trust the most is quietly doing the two kinds of damage that cost the most to undo. Not the cheap gas station brushes you already learned to stay away from years ago. I mean the nice one. The one with the sign out front that says gentle, soft touch, or touch-free. After more than 20 years in the Bay, I can tell you exactly what that wash is doing to your paint and to the sensors buried in your bumpers, and exactly why nobody at the counter is ever going to bring it up. Because they're not selling you a wash, they're selling you a membership. $30 a month feels like a bargain, right up until the day the finish looks tired and the backup camera throws a warning it never used to throw. Stick with me here, because the part that surprises people isn't the paint. It's what happens to the little cameras and sensors your car came with, the ones that quietly cost a small fortune to put right. Let's start with what actually happens once you roll in and take your hands off the wheel. A modern tunnel wash runs on recycled water. That isn't a rumor, and it isn't a scandal. It's the design. They reclaim the water, filter it, and pump it back through, wash after wash, car after car, all day long. Filtered is not the same word as clean. Fine grit and road sand from the truck 3 cars ahead of you ride along in that water, and it gets sprayed across your hood under pressure. Then come the soft cloth strips or the foam fingers, the ones the sign promised were gentle. Those same strips just dragged across a dozen filthy vehicles before yours, and whatever they picked up along the way, they carry straight onto your paint. Here's the part most people never picture. Your clear coat, that thin top layer that makes the color look deep and wet in the sun, is only a few microns thick. Thinner than a sheet of paper. Drag fine grit across something that thin 100 times a year, and you don't get one dramatic scratch you'd notice. You get thousands of tiny ones in every direction until the surface stops throwing a clean reflection and starts to look flat, dull, and a half shade off. And notice the math on that membership. Wash once a week and you've run your paint past those same shared brushes and that same recycled water 50-some times a year. Call it 200-300 passes over the life of the car. Damage that would take a decade to show up from the weather gets crammed into a couple of years. That's the paint. Now let me show you the trick hiding inside the word safe. Touch-free does not mean damage-free. A touchless wash never touches your paint because it can't. So instead it leans on chemistry, strong acidic and alkaline pre-soaks that blast the grime loose without a brush ever going near the car. Those chemicals can't tell the difference between road film and the wax or sealant that's protecting your finish. They strip it. Every single pass pulls a little more of that protection off and leaves the clear coat barer than it was the time before. They'll strip the shine off your trim and dry out the rubber around your windows while they're at it. There's a reason a lot of people notice their car looks worse a few months after they start a membership, not better. That fresh car came off the dealer lot with a heavy coat of wax on it, hiding a multitude of little sins and making the paint pop. The wash strips that coat away in a handful of visits, and suddenly every fine mark that wax was covering is out in the open. Then the water itself finishes the job. That reclaimed water is loaded with dissolved minerals, and when a big tunnel blower doesn't fully dry the car, those minerals bake onto the glass and paint as hard water spots that etch in if you leave them, which is a whole separate kind of damage the spot-free rinse upsell exists to charge you for. So the gentle cloth wash slowly sands your finish down, and the safe, touchless wash slowly strips it bare. 2 different methods pointed in the exact same direction. An unprotected, dull car that you paid a monthly fee to create. And that's only the damage you can see with your own eyes. Because while all of that is playing out on the surface, something much quieter is going wrong underneath. In the sensors, the factory tucked into your bumpers and your windshield, right where the water hits hardest. Walk around any car built in the last 8 or 10 years and count the eyes on it. There's a camera behind the windshield glass, up near the mirror, running your lane keeping and your automatic emergency braking. There's a camera in the tailgate for backing up. There are ultrasonic sensors, those little round buttons, pressed into the front and rear bumpers for parking. The nicer trims even hide cameras down in the side mirrors for that overhead view. Every one of those sits on the outside of the car, and every one of them takes a direct hit every time you go through that wash. The high-pressure jets are the part people underestimate the most. Put enough pressure straight onto an ultrasonic sensor or a radar cover over and over, and you can nudge it slightly out of aim. Not knock it off, just shift it a hair from where the factory set it. That's all it takes. These systems are calibrated down to the millimeter, and a sensor pointed even a degree or two wrong doesn't beep or warn you. It just quietly starts measuring the world a little bit wrong. The cameras have a different weakness. Their lenses are plastic, not glass, and the same recycled grit and harsh pre-soak that dulls your paint will scuff and cloud those little lenses over time. A camera trying to read the road through a hazed, micro-scratched lens is a camera feeding your car bad information. A lane keep or braking system acting on bad information is worse than one that's simply shut off because you still trust it to be right. Water is the last piece of it. Force enough water into a sensor housing that was only ever built to shrug off rain, and moisture works its way behind the seal. It fogs the lens and it corrodes the connector where the wire plugs in. None of this shows up as a clean, obvious failure, and that's exactly what makes it dangerous. A sensor pointed slightly wrong doesn't stop working. It works confidently and gets it wrong. The blind spot light stays dark while there's a car sitting right beside you, or the automatic braking grabs the pedal at a shadow that isn't there. You find out at the worst possible second, in traffic, not in the driveway. And here's the part that quietly makes it worse. Even when one of these systems is knocked off, most general repair shops aren't set up to catch it. Recalibration takes special targets, a level floor, and training a lot of corner garages simply don't have. So the car goes right on misreading the road, and nobody flags it because the light in the dash never came on. I've laid a detailing light across a lot of hoods that spent their life in the tunnel wash, and you don't need a trained eye to see it. Under a bright light, the whole panel is webbed with fine circular marring, like a spider spun across it in the sun. And the owner will swear up and down the car was never scratched, because standing in the driveway in flat daylight, to the naked eye, it wasn't. It's worse on some cars than others. A dark blue or black finish shows every mark, where silver and pearl hide them for years. And a few of the older imports still wear single-stage paint with no separate clear coat at all, which means the wash isn't sanding a sacrificial top layer, it's sanding the color itself, and once that's gone, it's gone. Put two of the same car side by side and the argument's over. Two Camrys, same model year, both looked after, both sitting right around 90,000 miles. One got run through the tunnel wash every week like clockwork. The other got a bucket and a garden hose in the driveway most Sunday mornings. The hand-washed one still throws a deep, clean reflection, and its parking sensors have never so much as burped. The tunnel car looks a half shade flatter in the sunlight, and its backup camera has started dropping out when the weather turns cold. Same car, same money, same miles. One of them got quietly worn down, and one of them didn't. And the only difference was where it got washed. If you're wondering whether it's already happening to yours, the early signs are quiet ones. Parking sensors that chirp at nothing in the rain. A backup camera that looks a little milky or drops to a black screen when it's cold. A lane keep or cruise system that switches itself off with a sensor unavailable message after a wash and comes back a day later. Those aren't glitches to shrug off. That's the system telling you it can't trust its own eyes. Quick reminder while we're on it. If this is the kind of thing you wish somebody had told you 15 years ago, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really does help us keep making videos like this one, and I want to hear where you land on this. Drop a comment and tell me how often your car goes through one of these washes, and whether your backup camera or parking sensors have ever acted up right afterward. I read those. Now, none of this means you're stuck choosing between a filthy car and a giant repair bill. The fix is simpler and cheaper than what you're doing right now, and it protects the paint and the sensors at the same time. The first move is to get yourself off the tunnel wash treadmill. If you're going to use an automatic at all, the touchless is the lesser evil for your paint, since nothing physically rubs it. But walk in knowing it's stripping your protection every time, which means you have to put that protection back yourself. For most people, though, the better answer is the oldest one there is. A bucket, a couple of soft microfiber wash mitts, and a hose in your own driveway. Make it 2 buckets if you want to do it properly. One with your car soap, one with plain water to rinse the mitt out as you go, so you're not picking grit up off the paint and grinding it right back in. That one habit is the whole ball game. Rinse the car down first before anything touches it, so the loose dirt floats off instead of getting dragged. Then wash from the roof down toward the rockers, where the worst filth lives, and dry it with a clean microfiber towel instead of letting it air dry into water spots. The supplies run you well under $100, and they last a couple of years. A bottle of spray sealant every few months, under $30, lays a real barrier back down between the road and your clear coat. If you'd rather pay once and forget it, a professional ceramic coating costs more up front, but does the same job for years. For the sensors, the rule is short. Never aim a pressure wand straight into a camera or a bumper sensor at close range. Wipe the camera lenses by hand with a soft, damp microfiber and nothing rougher than that. No paper towel, no dry shop rag, both of which will scratch the very lens you're trying to clean. Leave the radar alone entirely. The main forward radar usually hides behind the emblem or grille, so don't go picking at the badge or slapping a plate frame or a bull bar in front of it. Anything solid sitting in that path can throw the whole system off without a single tool touching it. And if you do run the car through a touchless now and then, when it's 20 below and washing by hand isn't happening, get a spray sealant back on it that same week to replace the protection those chemicals just stripped. 10 minutes, once a week or so, in your own driveway. That is the entire fix. And here's where you finally see what those 10 minutes are actually protecting, because the numbers on the other side of this are the part nobody ever warns you about. Once that clear coat is hazed, you cannot wash it back, not with any soap on earth. The only real repair is paint correction, a machine buffing a little more of the clear coat away to level out the scratches. And a proper correction runs $300 to $600, closer to $1,000 for the whole car done right. The trap is that you can only do that a couple of times in the paint's whole life before there's no clear coat left to cut into. Once you're out of clear coat, a hazed or peeling panel means repainting. $700 to $1,200 for a single panel and $4,000 or $5,000 and up if the whole car needs it. The sensors are where the real money hides though. Knock one out of alignment or cloud a camera badly enough that the system faults, and you don't just wipe it clean. It has to be recalibrated back to factory spec on special targets and equipment that most corner garages don't even own. You're sent to a dedicated shop for it. That recalibration by itself runs a couple $100 to $700, and it climbs into four figures fast if more than one system needs it. If the camera or the sensor is actually damaged and has to be replaced and then calibrated, one corner of your car can easily hit $1,000 to $2,000. I had a retired bookkeeper come in from out in Ohio, drove a clean little 2019 RAV4 she'd bought to be her last vehicle. A year on a weekly wash membership, and she had a hood you could see the swirls in from across the lot, and a backup camera that kept faulting in the damp. The correction and the recalibration together cost her more than 2 years of those wash memberships she thought were the careful, responsible choice. The insult of it is that she did everything right by the old rules. She kept the car clean. She never let it sit filthy. She paid for what looked like the safe option every single week. The car got worn down anyway, and not one person along the way told her the wash was the reason. Now, stand back and look at what all of that does to somebody on a fixed income. You bought this car to be the last one. It's paid off. It owes you nothing. And then the finish looks tired. The lane keep light won't shut off. The parking sensors are screaming every time it rains. And the salesman smells all of it on you the moment you walk onto the lot for an oil change. And he starts in about how maybe it's finally time for something newer. That's the real trap. It was never really the repair bill. It's the slow push toward another car payment you were never going to take on, because the machine you were told was the safe choice quietly ran your good car into the ground. 10 minutes with a bucket keeps that entire conversation from ever getting started. If you want to know which factory features to switch off the very day you get in the car, the ones the dealer leaves running because they wear the car out faster, not because they do a thing for you, click the video on the left. I'll see you there.